looking at not historical sign, but sign from early season right now and whatnot.
Mhm.
Uh, would you mind like elaborating on that of like how how fresh can a rub be this time of year and what to look for as far as how old those rubs are and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can see it in color, but it's one of those things that are hard to describe. I can't give you like a color range or anything,
Yeah.
but your buckhorn and stuff or buckthorn will be like a orange when it's rubbed,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll be gray if it was rubbed in early season. It'll be orange if it was rubbed in like late season. And sometimes you get rubs that are still a little tacky. Some are all dried out and starting to dull in color. You can kind of judge when those rubs were made. In a lot of cases, you have to see a variety of rubs to start to get that together. What helps is to see an area that gets rubbed all the time and you see the difference in ages of the rubs together. And then you can start to put that together. Um, I think the main thing I look for scouting this time of the year, if I'm looking for where deer were bedding and traveling and working during um, the time frames that I hunt, I'm going to look for the classic bedding points. I'm going to look for the classic islands, things like that. And the good part is they're very obvious at this time of the year when there ain't leaves blocking your vision. You can see the stuff really well. So you can go there easy. You don't have to worry about spooking deer out of it. You just walk in there and look around and you find the beds. Even if there's not tracks at this time of the year, if the deer migrate in your area, you'll find the dents in the ground where they were bedding. You'll be able to see where the beds were. Sometimes you need to, again, get a knack of looking for that. And I say that with kind of a hesitation because I look at it and I know right away what I'm looking at. And I always thought it was obvious. But when I take these groups out for like our workshops in the spring, you'll have people look at it and go, well, what makes you think that's a bed? And I'll be like, well, what do you think it is? Well, it's dirt. It's a dent in the ground. The leaves aren't disturbed or anything. Well, yeah, not at this time of the year. Well, how do you know that's a bed? Well, I know it because I've looked at so many of them over the years. I've
Yeah.
looked at them, then I've seen them later in the year when they, in the spring. I've seen them in the fall when they're bedding there. So it's one of those things that, again, you got to get some boot leather out there. But looking at those points and stuff, finding rubs right in the beds. I think one thing that really is not 100% because a lot of times big buck bedding areas, if you're in low populations, won't be rubbed up and stuff from big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that gets me going is if there's rubs right in the beds that are off of mature bucks, because not all bedding areas will hold mature bucks. Mature bucks got a lot fewer bedding areas than what are out there. You'll have 1 and 2 year olds that'll bed on every point, right?
Yeah.
There's only select spots that those mature bucks will bed on. So finding mature buck sign in that bedding area tells you mature bucks bed there, and that's some place that you should concentrate on if you find mature buck sign there. But what will screw people up is they'll find giant rubs in a bedding area and they'll be like, oh man, this is it. You got to find those rubs in the beds. If they're off to the side, that might be a buck cruising through there or breeding with does that are bedding there. But you'll find when they bed in those areas, a lot of times the rub will be exactly right in the bed. You'll see the tree that they're bedding next to the rub. You know what I mean? That's a buck bedding there that's rubbing that. If it's on the trail that goes past there, or if there's like a rub line going in and out, one rub line going to the bedding area, not past it, like not around it, or
right.
It probably means that there's a mature buck bedding in there. But then there's a time frame of when they go in there, and that's the real key to looking at those bedding areas. So what I'm finding more and more is that these bucks really have a key time frame that they really peak on these bedding areas. And it's funny because you'll hear guys say, and I'm sure some of our listeners are going to be this exact way. They'll say, I'm saving my area for rut. I will not go in there till rut. Well, what you're going to find is some of these bucks might be bedding there in September and be a mile from there in rut. You know what I mean? Or bedding there late season and they're a mile from there in rut. But there's like a 2-week window. I mean, I've got spots where the first 2 weeks of October is the time to be there. I've got spots like that big buck I shot last year in September. I knew I had to hit that buck opening week.
Yeah.
We got him, you know. So a guy's got to get good at reading the sign at these bedding areas and understanding what he's seeing. And that is a difficult task. And that's one I get asked about a lot, and that is a hard one to answer. But if you look at a bedding area like that, you try to age the rubs, you try to age the sign, you try to determine how often they're bedding there, what time frames they're bedding there, and you take an educated guess. You look at what food's around it, why are they there, where are the trails that are going in and out of that bedding area coming from and going to. Are there multiple trails going out of that bedding area? Is there one trail going out of that bedding area? Where are they going? Are they going to a doe bedding area? Is the bedding area really rubbed up? Rubs everywhere. That would tend me to believe that it's in the late October, early November timeframe, right? Are there no rubs, but it looks like big bucks are going in and out of there? Maybe there's a tickle on a tree or two that looked like it was from a big buck. Yeah. That could be first week of September. That could be late season when they're not really rubbing a lot, right? Is it adjacent to an acorn flat? Then it could be like an every other year thing when the oaks are dropping, but if there's oaks everywhere, maybe that has no bearing at all. But you have to do your like investigation. You have to be like a detective, a deer detective. And you have to figure out that bedding area and why that deer is there, and then kind of come up with a time frame when he's there. And if all else fails, what I like to do is throw 3 hunts at something if I like it. So I hit it early season, I hit it rut, and I hit it late season if I have no clue, or if I think there might be multiple times they're bedding there. And what that'll tell me is I might not even see a deer. Maybe I never see my buck, because hitting the time imperfect, let's admit it, if you usually don't. But what it will tell you is when you go into hunt and you slip it in so close, if you're getting within 100 yards of that bedding area, you should see sign. And that sign will tell you whether or not you're in the right time frame, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that'll help you next year. Maybe it'll help you the same year. But that, and if you keep a good journal, when you go out and you scout these areas, if you write everything down, what you're going to find is you think you know everything, and when you come back the next year, there's stuff that you have forgot. There's stuff you don't remember exactly right. But if you had a journal and you kept track of what you've seen, what the wind needs to be, where the tree is, or trees, because I tend to hunt different trees on different winds. And there might be multiple exits, and it might be one exit's used at one time of the year and one exit's used at a different time of the year, because one exit maybe goes to does, one exit maybe goes to a certain food source. When's that food source being hit? So if I see a bedding area that has a trail that goes to a crop field from the bedding area, that's where it goes to. When season comes, I won't necessarily go and hunt there when I think it's the time frame. Instead, I might take a walk along the edge of that crop field and look at the sign. If there's deer and they're feeding heavy, I'm like, okay, it's time to go 600 yards over there where that bedding area is. If there's no sign, it's like, okay, I'm going to leave this alone until it heats up. Or maybe there's a little sign. I don't see no big tracks. There isn't no big rubs around the crops or anything. Okay, we'll just back off. And if I really believe there's a shooter around there, maybe I got a camera, maybe a cell cam, or on the edge of that field. If a lot of people walk there, maybe a regular camera that I can every now and then check the card. Cell cams just really come in handy nowadays, though, but it'll tell you when, but monitor the food source. And the food source, you're going to be a lot more tolerant of a person being at, right?
Hey everybody, if you like the channel, make sure you subscribe right here. And if you like the clips, I got 2 more options for you. 2 options right here. Subscribe right here. See you guys.